What the was he doing out there, man?
Listen, he's a young kid going for his first win. Cut him some slack.
I mean, the kid went and threw me and took Verstappen with him.
Yeah, look, I know it wasn't good, but he had no ill intent. I already talked to him.
Yeah, we're not going to win a championship or a Constructors' Championship if we got a teammate racing like that, bud.
Listen, go cool down and we can go over this again. Keep your mind focused for this team.
And there you hear it between myself and Christian Horner. Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 3 of season 5, where we head to Circuit of the Americas, fresh off of some drama with our teammate of Drugovich and the collision late in that Grand Prix, which resulted in us in finishing 9th instead of what was looking like a victory. The seas parted. Lewis Hamilton was able to pick up his first win in his return to Formula 1 and with Ferrari after that abysmal start with the mechanical failure in the season opener. Outside of the drama of last episode, so far the story of the first 2 episodes have kind of been reliability. Reliability has been a big issue for us. We've had an issue in Australia. We have as well seen, McLaren have their issues. Mercedes have their issues as well. All top teams are having some kind of mechanical issues so far. And of course, durability was one of the departments that got a regulation change this season, so it wasn't necessarily surprising, and I think this is going to be a bit of a trend we see, probably for the first, 7 or 8 Grand Prix, the first half of the season, basically, before we get into that final half push. But, focusing in on, getting back into our strengths, and that's being in the car, fresh off of the drama in Mexico, just trying to focus in on putting good practice lap times down. Drugovich actually tops the boards as we end up P7, heading into qualifying. Actually, a brief chat with Natalie Pinkham.
You're looking for a bounce-back weekend, Gary. With rain today, how do you think you will fare out there?
Yeah, hopefully strong. Rain is kind of my strong suit, but it's supposed to dry up later, so I don't know. We'll see what happens. Ready to roll then here from Circuit of the Americas. So it is raining to kick off things, but we come through to the end of Q1, and the session had actually started on wet, but it had transitioned into intermediate conditions, and that's when I went on the track and just came around and put in my lap, and the lap was good enough to advance very well into the next session there. P8 as Tsunoda, Lawson, Hughes, Armstrong, and Ocon at the bottom of the board. Esteban Ocon, terrible effort there. Q2 was a different story. Right at the end of Q2, the soft tire was an option, and only a few cars would actually be out on softs. Myself, as well as Max Verstappen in the Ferrari, and then Callie Mayer. So Verstappen at the top of the board, Callie Mayer would go P2 with that lap, and she of course is coming off of making history in the last episode, scoring the most points of any female in Formula 1 history. We cross the line, we go up towards the front as well, top of the board, as Butler, Zhou, Sainz, Gasly, Hamilton out, last episode winner because of Callie Mayer and the dry lap time. Everybody, well, not everybody, but Hamilton certainly regretting not going onto a dry tire there at the end of Q2. By the time Q3 comes around, the conditions were perfect for qualifying. Now completely dry, the sun poking through the clouds just a fair bit. Now, our first lap in Q3 only put us P9, but we found about half a second of improvement in the first about 3 quarters of our second lap. Late in the session, it would turn into about 8 to almost 9 tenths of a second. It would be 9 tenths coming to the line. That's going to put us up in P4, but I was confident there was more. Turn 1, I really drive in deep, hit that apex really well, hard on the throttle on the exit. We find another tenth of a second, and we would carry that basically throughout the rest of the lap. There wouldn't be much else improvement, but this might put us into P3 ahead of Max Verstappen to the line. Albon on pole, Leclerc second for Trancos. It would be P3 for us. A great rebound from Mexico after pole, of course, there in Mexico, which was great, but we end up P3 as Callie Mayer there. P10, Piastri for Trancos down in 9th, Jackson, Drugovich, P7, Russell, Norris, Verstappen sandwiched in between us. Let's head to the grid in Circuit of the Americas.
Here we are then in one of the fastest growing cities in the United States, the fabulous Austin in the great state of Texas. The circuit itself, 14 miles southeast of the city centre, has been home to the US Grand Prix since 2012, the latest in a long list of iconic tracks to have that honour. It's the Circuit of the Americas then, situated 14 miles outside of the great city of Austin. This is a 3.6 mile lap with 20 corners, 10 to the left and 10 to the right, and top speeds of around 200 miles per hour. Overtaking opportunities are available into turns 1 and 12, especially with that rear wing DRS wide open. Before we begin, let's take a quick look at the grid lineup for today's race. What a great lap from Alexander Albon yesterday. He'll start from pole position, and it's Charles Leclerc in P2. Considering the rest of the grid, we have Golden Boy, Verstappen, Norris, Russell, Drugovich, Jackson, Oscar Piastri, Mayer, Hamilton, Gasly, Sainz, Joe, Butler, Tsunoda, Liam Lawson, Hughes, Armstrong, and Esteban Ocon lines up at the back of the grid. It's almost time for those 5 red lights to go out then. Let's see who can prevail today. And with me today, of course, is Natalie Pinkham.
And joining me again for the race today, Natalie Pinkham.
Let's start with a new Alfa Romeo driver. We have a number of changes to the aerodynamic regulations this year, and the signs haven't looked good for them so far in terms of getting to grips with those changes.
Well, there are a few downcast looks within the team this weekend. I think they have been hit fairly hard by these new regs. But this is only the first step down a long road of development. Even if they don't maximise their points today, there are plenty more up for grabs this season.
Ready to roll here from Circuit of the Americas. Now, let's hope it's not a repeat of last episode where we start up front and go backwards. We're going to be doing the mediums, 2 hards. This seems to be the strategy to actually go through. Also, we don't have a fresh set of softs, but Albon, Drugovich, and Lawson all starting on mediums as well. Let's get ready to roll in COTA.
Here we go then, the formation lap gets underway and the excitement here is building as we near ever closer to the start of the race. Which team will come out on top? Who's got their strategies right for today's race? Well, we'll soon find out. As the cars come back towards the grid to line up for the start of the race, each driver will be wanting to get the best start they possibly can, and they'll be hoping to finish today's race on the podium, and failing that, within the points.
Alright guys, not the start of the season we wanted, but a good starting spot today. Let's have a good one.
I support this idea. Go get them today.
Our first 2 races, an 8th and a 9th place result, is statistically our worst start to a season since our rookie season, back of course in season number 1 there in the AlphaTauri days. Season 2, even when we first went to Aston Martin, statistically was a better first 2 races in terms of the finishing results. Let's try and get back on track today with the 3rd place starting position now, and it's going to be Alex Albon, Leclerc, myself, Verstappen, Norris, the top 5 as we're ready to roll. Lights out, we're racing. Here's a terrible start for the Trackhouse machine of Charles Leclerc. It's a great start for Verstappen on that fresh, soft rubber. Up the inside he goes. You see the brand new Ferrari livery being represented, by the way, this weekend now as well. They have brought a brand new livery to the racetrack. It looks absolutely fantastic now. As you can see in the background, there's our teammate Drugovich getting through on Leclerc. Charles Leclerc with a terrible start here in the United States Grand Prix. The only time we're in the United States this season, by the way. Now, no Miami, no Las Vegas either on the calendar in this 16 race season. As we go from COTA all the way to France in the next episode, by the way. We're going to be headed overseas there from the United States. As now George Russell up my inside into the braking zone, putting some pressure on early, and we're already struggling here as we exit the apex, and you can see, look at that orange engine icon. That is a bit of a concern. So my ICE's been warned coming into this episode now. Is hold on before we dive into that. Drugovich is going to split us 3 wide on the long run down towards turn number 10, and he's going to get a little bit physical even with Lando Norris now as he's fighting to get into a podium running position, but Norris hangs on. We drop all the way down to P5.
Everything good, mate?
I don't know yet. I don't know, but I think there might be an issue, and that's the fact that we didn't change the ICE before the episode started, or before the race started, because it started about 52% on the wear, which is not a big deal. But by the time the Grand Prix started and I had completely ignored this or had not noticed it, it was over 60% worn, and our pace was starting to drop a little bit here on already lap number 2 of this United States Grand Prix. Leclerc for Trackhouse pulls to the left side, smoke pouring out of the back, and it's going to be day over for Leclerc. His first mechanical failure. It doesn't matter what team he goes to, he's going to have an engine failure.
I'm out, guys. Sorry, Charles, we will get this issue resolved.
And that's a mechanical failure in the home Grand Prix for Trackhouse Racing. 2 teams, of course, it's home Grand Prix for Trackhouse and Haas, Alfa Romeo. But it sounds like, maybe early rumblings, very early in the season, Haas could be on the way out at the end of the season. 67% on the ICE, and it was starting to show we've got problems. This is not good, and you can see we're losing time, and it was predominantly anywhere where speed was required here now as we have a lockup into turn 10, and that's unfortunately going to allow Drungovic to be able to get out of the DRS range for myself, and this would leave the vulnerabilities of my current state of this car, you know, wide open for everybody to see. And you can see that once I had lost that DRS, I mean, we were dropping, we were plummeting. I was trying to break the slipstream down the long back straightaway and see what I could do. Russell actually tries to catch me off guard into turn 1 on lap 7, just sneaks up the inside right there. We stay ahead for now, but this is not going to last long at all. We have got problems now. The ICE is very quickly wearing as this race goes on, and that is just going to continue basically to, you know, hurt the pace in this Red Bull Ford as we continue these laps, just desperately trying to push as hard as I can to stay as close as I can to Drungovic and the cars ahead. But you can see, I mean, we're dropping. We're turning into a Mexico 2.0 from last episode, just a bit of a different scenario. It's not a tire issue, it's now an engine issue as we continue to plummet backwards. Now we continue to hold on to P5, but by lap 11 you can see I'm under a lot of pressure now from George Russell. Not far back is Aiden Jackson down in P7, and here comes Russell with the DRS. He swings to the right side down the straightaway. It's an easy move, and through into P5 he goes. The soft tires starting to fade, and that's showing you that we're struggling for sure, because although the softs are starting to fade for everybody that's on them, Albon's starting to run away on his mediums, I'm still losing time. So I make an audible call. We're pitting right now at the end of lap 11. The pit window was lap 14. I was thinking around 12 or 13, but we're just going to come in a tad bit earlier, and we're also making a downforce adjustment going from the mid 40s to 35 to try and just get a little bit more straight line speed out of this car, because that's what we're very desperate for right now.
Okay, mate, this is going to be tough, but you just need to go as hard as you can for the rest of the race.
Very frustrated at this point now. You know, it's just, you know, turning into a messy start to the season. And this one, I mean, it falls on my responsibility this time of not changing the engine part, simply because not really thinking about it. If the reliability of the car was still good, we'd be okay to not change the part. But keep in mind, we are way behind on the durability, and that's costing us big time here today. Now, we're 3 wide here with a McLaren exiting the pits and then going around Gasly there. That was Aiden Jackson rejoining the racing surface now, and unfortunately, we have gained nothing really. I mean, Russell is basically the same gap ahead as where we came in to the pits, but he only pitted about a lap later, of course. But everybody was getting ready to flood into the pits now. The leader, Van Albon, as well, Max Verstappen, as well as Oscar Piastri and whatnot. But you can see, I mean, we're in trouble. We've got nothing right now. Jackson is running me down, and it's going to take a full-blown miracle now. As you can see, we're going to be able to get past Lewis Hamilton, but here comes Aiden Jackson. I just got nothing for him on the run down towards turn 1. Right now, exiting Lando Norris out of the pits. He's side by side with Russell, but Russell gets the position. Our teammate of Felipe Drungovic, so Albon would pit at the end of lap 14. Drungovic would really extend his first run here, and he wouldn't pit until the end of lap 15, so he really waited, as the ICE is now at 71%. As you can see me asking for vehicle condition, I got no pace. The car was just doing nothing right, but on these hards as well, the car was just not driving good. It was understeering significantly, and just, I couldn't hook up, you know, I felt like a single apex. Some of these corners, I just was understeering really hard on the exit. Drungovic finally completes his pit stop, comes out behind me, but he's going to blow the doors off of me. This is such a disaster, guys. I don't even know what to say. I mean, it's understeering, it's doing everything wrong. I got no pace on a straightaway. It's probably the worst car I've driven since my rookie days. You hear me to the team. I mean, I don't know what to do at this point now, and at this run here on the hards, I was really confused, because now it's not down to the ICE being worn, it's just the hards were not good. I couldn't really get the car to do what I needed it to do in the corners, so of course, when you pile that on with the straight line speed issue with the ICE, it just gets worse. Hamilton would run me down with ease. Piastri runs me down with ease, and Hamilton blows our doors away. I love that Ferrari, though. I mean, at least he looks good when he's passing me. And then here comes Oscar Piastri in the Trackhouse machine, now to the outside into turn number 10. Wheel to wheel, nearly contact right there with the Australian. Now still looking for his first win in Formula 1. Now as we continue wheel to wheel on the exit of the double right-handers here on the run towards towards this really awkward braking zone. I just don't have confidence now in this car. Piastri holds on to P8 as we do fight back briefly, but you're really going to see the understeer that I'm talking about on display. Look at that. I couldn't turn it all as we're going to go through the grid in a confusing set of circumstances here in COTA.
Albon leads in these closing 10 laps, with Verstappen trailing by 2 seconds.
And that gap is increasing as Jackson is moving up to 4th as he navigates past Lando Norris. Mercedes looking really strong today.
Mr. Ted Kravitz, what have you got for us?
Yeah, guys, just wanted to touch on Owen's struggles. On top of an apparent engine issue, he's been now complaining about the car's drivability on the hard tyre. It's not been an easy start to the year for the Canadian.
Owen can't get to grips with his car. Red Bull fumbled the ball on Drugovic's strategy, in my opinion, plus their clash last time out in Mexico. Red Bull needs to get their act together quickly.
Hamilton down in 7th following his win in Mexico. Not quite the day he was looking for as Piastri trails in 8th.
And Callie Mayer runs 12th, a solid backup day after her first points in Mexico. More races like this in her second season. She could find herself in a better car soon enough.
The pair of Haas cars towards the bottom of the grid. Both drivers having rough days in the team's home Grand Prix.
It hasn't been a pretty day for either of the home teams, has it? Piastri following his podium up with only 8th as they run with 10 laps to go.
Man, I don't even know what to say right now as we continue to fade. You can see the drivers that were still having a lot better day than Tsunoda, Lawson, Hughes, Armstrong, they're all at the bottom of the grid. Marcus Armstrong, I think he's going to be gone before the mid part of the season or sometime around there. I was looking at, a audible call again. I mean, we got no pace, and I said, you know what? Why don't we try pitting and just throw on the mediums, because these hards, I just don't know what it is. They just haven't hooked up. So when you combine that with the ICE issues, it's just made for one of the most miserable moments so far with Red Bull Ford. So I would box. Lap 23 coming to 20, yes, this was starting lap 23. We come in, and we're going to throw on a set of mediums and just hope for the best here and just kind of see what we can do. Maybe if we can set the fastest lap of the Grand Prix was basically the goal. The main reason I pitted was because I also couldn't even pull away from Pierre Gasly on hard tires. If I can't pull away from an Alpine, that's a problem. And things would turn around drastically immediately. The car, it hooked up again. The mediums were working. We set a purple sector 2, and we would actually come around to complete the lap in pretty flashy fashion here. As you can imagine, a green sector 1, a purple sector 2, things are looking pretty good. And we're going to exit that final turn, and sure enough, we'll set the fastest lap of the Grand Prix. But yeah, I mean, we're on an island of our own. It was a very, confusing day here. Obviously, you can imagine there's going to need to be something desperately done going into these next episodes. We have a car capable of fighting for the championship, and here we are looking at an 8th and a 9th and a 9th again in the first 3 Grand Prix. We start the final lap of this Grand Prix. An absolute disastrous day. Alex Albon, he's been in control all day. The mediums to hards were quite simply the way to go, and we just still had nothing today. A very frustrating experience. But Alex Albon is going to round these final couple of corners. That's going to be 2 wins in the first 3 Grand Prix. Of course, the mechanical failure set him back last episode. However, he wins the United States Grand Prix. Verstappen and Russell gets Mercedes back on podium. How about that? They show some signs of, potential and, potential signs to go and get back where they need to be, basically. We round the final turn, and it's going to be P9. Not the day we needed an embarrassing show in Circuit of the Americas. We need a full team meeting after that. I mean, that was terrible, unacceptable. We need to have a chat.
I agree with you, mate. Something didn't work there.
Emergency team meeting following post-race interviews, everyone.
What a fantastic Grand Prix that was, and an excellent win for McLaren. So, Natalie, what do you think helped them deliver this result?
I feel consistency was probably the key today. There's being quick, and then there's being quick lap after lap after lap. If you can do that, you can capitalise on other people's errors without making many of your own. And that's an approach that can push you a long way up the field.
Horner calls an emergency team meeting, and I think it's going to go beyond my struggles with the drivability of the car and the hard. and of course the IC issue, that was my responsibility there. But on top of that, I mean, the strategy was all screwed up for Felipe Drugovich, who had a very realistic chance at a podium today. And instead they left him out, too many laps, and he paid the price and was only able to rebound to a 5th place effort. So a lot of things did not go right for Red Bull Ford today, and it was just not good. Next episode is France, and last season, we won France in a final lap duel against Lando Norris in that wet and, dry tire situation that was happening. Hopefully we can bounce back, but there's going to be some wind tunnel testing. There's going to be a lot of things. There is actually a brief break in between this episode and the next episode, not in the days in between episodes, but an actual season break. So that is going to allow us to really hit the reset button, kind of meet and see what we can do. Drugovich back by 14, Albon out in front by 11 points over Jackson, and Russell, we're all the way down in P11, right now tied with Pierre Gasly at only 9 points. Fortunately, these issues have come early. We have time to get out of this hole, but it has to start now with only a 16 race calendar. France, we're going to go out there. We're going to get at least a podium. I think we're going to win the Grand Prix. I'll see you guys in the next one. Have a great day.